Hello, everybody. So welcome to those of you who are right now in the Ascender's virtual space. My name is Anya Aleman. I'm the Innovation Director here at Ascender. For those of you who are new to the Ascender space, Ascender is Pittsburgh's community for entrepreneurs. We offer educational programming, free educational programming, mentorship, expert coaching, business incubation, and run an entrepreneur-focused co-working space near Bakery Square here in the East End of Pittsburgh. You can learn more about this and more and all of the programs that we offer for entrepreneurs in our website. So I invite you to take a look at our website, explore. It will just take you like around 5 minutes and see what else is there that you can learn from us. If you haven't already signed up for our newsletter, it's a really rocking newsletter that Ben, our program coordinator, runs. So I highly recommend that you start with that as well. So I'm just going to go through a couple of announcements before we get started with our program. So today's event is part of our free monthly educational programming. Every month we zero in on a topic that is critical and important for entrepreneurs in our community. So this month we are talking about gaining traction. What does that look like? How do you message it? And especially for those of you who are early stage, that you really don't know, everybody talks about it, but maybe no one really talks about like very specific examples. We want to make sure that you walk away with specific examples and with a better understanding about how to talk about traction after today's sessions and also the one coming up on March 29th. This is how we start our Real Talk series of 2022. So I couldn't think of like two better people to invite to talk about traction, but I'm gonna let Nadine Nunez, our executive director, just take it from here and then we can get started.
All right, thank you, Anya. So welcome everyone. I see some familiar faces, John, Baina, and some new folks as well. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday, right? Yes, not Friday yet, but we'll get there soon. So today, very, very excited. I love this is one of my the programs that I look forward to the most because it's just kind of like a casual conversation. As we talk, feel free to add questions in the chat. We also collected the questions that you submitted through registration and added them to a very, 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 very long list of questions. But me, I don't always stick to the script, but I'll try my best. So first, I want to do some introductions, and I always like to allow the person to give the introduction because they can introduce themselves the best. I like to give my own introductions, so I'm going to let them do the same. So I'll start with Rachel. Rachel, give us an intro. What's going on? What do you do?
Hi, everybody. I'm Rachel. I'm the founder and CEO of Subtl Beauty. So we make portable, stackable makeup for busy, badass women on the go. Prior to Subtl, I was in marketing and project management, specifically for e-commerce companies. And I started Subtl 5 years ago, and since then we have shipped 70,000 stacks worldwide, and that number keeps climbing. So super happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, Asha, you're up.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asha. I'm the founder and CEO of CheerNotes. We are an inclusive stationery brand and retailer where you can find a range of cards that either have diverse cultural representation, celebrate sobriety and anniversaries. It just runs the gamut on inclusive messaging and representation. Prior to running CheerNotes, I had a career as a chemical engineer, so hard pivot to something that was totally new for me. So I'm enjoying the journey, learning as I go.
Thank you. So, I'm very selfish because these are two products that I love. For Rachel, this is literally what I carry around with me. So I need to buy your stuff. This is too big. And then, for Asian, you too, I was looking at your cards and, I immediately went to the Latino section and already I saw Vapor Rub, which was like something my parents always, you have a cold, you're tired, your nose is stuffy, whatever. You can't come up with an idea, just rub a little bit on your mind and you got it. So I'm definitely going to buy some of these things. And Ben, at some point, let's add the links to the chat so people can check it out too to buy. So if this is your first time, we always start with the speed round. These are the things where we don't need long answers to. We just want a quick kind of answer from the founders just to kind of understand the context that they're coming from. So Ben will copy and paste the questions here in the chat. And then we'll go from one company to the other to answer them and just read the question and fill in the gaps. So for example, I started my current business 5 years ago. And then you go on, before starting my current business, I was working as a blah. And I know in your introduction, you talked a little bit about that, but if we can kind of go down the list, and again, it's just to provide context before we get into the really good questions. So we'll go backwards. So Asia, what about you?
I started my business 2 years ago. Before starting my current business, I was working as an engineer and consultant. My company currently employs 1 employee, me. I primarily funded my business through bootstrapping, and yep, that's it.
Great, thank you. What about you, Rachel?
So I started my business 5 years ago. Before starting my business, I was working as an e-commerce project manager. My company currently employs, and I had to look this up, but 17 employees. I've primarily funded my business up until launch was bootstrapped, and then post-launch, I leveraged venture capital.
Okay, wonderful. And Asia, I think you had some interns at some point, right? Like 7 interns.
Yes, during our first year, so summer of 2020, we helped some people out with some jobs, right? A lot of people's internships were canceled, so we took on a lot more interns than we expected, but yes, so not currently.
Okay, nice. All right, so we're gonna do the same for this last set of questions, right? This is the last set, Ben? Cool. We'll go in the same order. So Asia, what about you? In 5 words or less.
In 5 words or less, business traction means to me your go-to-market strategy feedback loop. The best metric for traction is revenue. I think that falls. When growing my business, the most important metric, or when growing a business, the most important metric a founder should focus on is whatever demonstrates value, that's the value proposition, or whatever demonstrates value proposition tied growth for your company. So for us, it's cards sold. And the most dangerous metric an early stage founder can focus on is any vanity metrics that aren't proving your value proposition.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Rachel, how about you? And feel free to disagree. If someone says true, the other one says false. It's what it's all about. We actually invite contradictory ideas too, so people can see all sides. But if it's also the same, that's fine as well. So how about you get started?
Yeah, I loved all those answers. These were great. I think in 5 words or less, what does business traction mean to you? I think that it's an indicator of brand awareness, success, and product desirability. The best metrics for traction is revenue. I just think it depends. I don't think that it is a true or false. I do think it depends on your stage and your company type. When growing a business, most important metric a founder should focus on, it also depends. Like an example, when we were pre-revenue, I used email signups and social followers as a metric to track, and then post-product or post-launch, many other different metrics, including revenue. And then the most dangerous metric an early stage founder can focus on, I don't necessarily believe in dangerous metrics, but I do think the startup community places way too much emphasis on money raised through VCs as a success metric and not enough on revenue and profitability.
So I know we're talking about traction, but let's take us, because I'm with you, Rachel, on that. People think that investor money is a sexy thing, but like you're giving away part of your company, and now you have someone you need to be reporting to. So if we could take a quick second in this session about just expand a little bit more what you feel about investor money, and what are some other options people don't always consider but could still be viable options.
Well, I mean, it's hard, right? Like it's all hard. I think that so much of the startup community places, they just place so much emphasis on if you raise VC, you are successful. And if you don't, you're not. And I feel like once I started raising venture capital, all of my investors are really amazing. I got really lucky. I'll say that right off the bat. But I do think that you then realize that it's all kind of a facade in terms of, it's not necessarily a signal of success. You still have to put in the work. You still have to do all the same things. And raising VC takes a ton of time and takes you away from building the business. So I remember, especially like earlier on, there was this push and pull between, do I use my energy to focus on building this company, or do I focus on putting together my pitch and writing my 20th, pitch deck and exec summary? But then in order for this part to be successful, you need to be building your business and showing traction. So it's a challenge. I think that honestly, funding is very limited. I wasn't eligible for a line of credit with a bank. Even credit cards as a business were hard to obtain. So I don't have the perfect answer for all of these other options, but don't be afraid to start smaller. I think might be, a good way. I delayed my start because I took 2 years to save my money to afford to launch. That's not the wrong way to do it. I think there's no wrong way, but VC is not the only way.
Mm-hmm. Asha, and you're bootstrapped as well, right?
I'm actually kind of funding the business with the B2B part of my business. So that has much higher revenue generation on a single order, right? And so while I'm building the B2C part, I know that I can at least have more revenue coming in from that B2B side. And that was actually a product of a pandemic pivot that even came about.
Oh, so you weren't thinking to do B2B?
Not in the first year, not in the first couple months when I started doing it, but yeah, it just happened and I went with it, and I actually just packed a B2B order today. It's been a steady kind of flow of income to keep us going when we're still getting money from the B2C side, but obviously it can't compare with a order for 400 cards.
No, not at all. Do you design your all your cards?
It's a mix. So we started out as a curator, and we were buying wholesale from a bunch of indie designers. And then at the beginning of last year, we ended up launching our own brand. So now we continue to bring our own brands. But I am not a designer. I make really bad sketches and creative briefs to explain what I'm going for, and then I work with artists to bring it to life.
Wonderful. Okay, cool. Yeah, I see. It's very consistent in seeing the imaging. So when you were saying you had bought from other places, I was like, well, it's very consistent on your website. That makes sense. So, I'm curious when for Rachel, you were saying before you had your product out in the market, you had defined traction as social media followers or engagement and newsletter followers. How much weight, do you feel like that was convincing, and who were you telling that traction to?
Honestly, myself. Pre-product, you're really trying to convince yourself that it's worth pursuing. So during that time, I had a full-time job. I was saving every penny I was bringing in, and I was just talking to a bunch of people about the problems that they're encountering in this space. And then, getting people to sign up, or I created a landing page. So tracking landing page views. And really at that stage, it was proof to myself, because I was an investor. I was Subtl's first investor. So I didn't want to pursue an idea that didn't have potential. And so that's what I was using. I know that some people, are talking to investors earlier than what I was. And I think that there's small indicators. I can't speak to how well received they are in that space, though.
Okay, that makes sense. For you, kind of building upon what Rachel is saying, you can track all these metrics, right? But what does it mean? How do you determine, is this good? Is this fast enough? Is this big enough? Is this too small? How do you go from tracking to actually creating goals when you're like, well, I don't know, I'm just glad we're still alive, right?
Great question. I feel like I'm still in like iterations of my MVP. Like we're still an infant. I I think that what I did was I kept making a new hypothesis and then trying to test against that hypothesis. So I, like Rachel, started out with email signups being my indicator of whether or not people even cared about having this single place to shop from all of these different people. And so I went on from there, from like my website being the next iteration of that. And okay, well, are people going to buy? And at that time, I was testing out like a sign and send kind of service. And then I tested, well, do people still come if we don't have the sign and send, which we don't have right now? We paused that feature. So I've kept kind of iterating, and I think that you learn new things, and then you kind of understand, okay, what do I want to do next, or what do I want to stop? And then all the while you're continuing to talk to customers. Customer discovery never ends. So you want to keep having that feedback loop to understand if you're moving in the right direction.
That's talking about customer, getting to know your customer. Both of you created something that you both wanted to see in the market, right? You didn't see this out there, and so you saw an opportunity, you filled that gap. But even you're not always the representation of the customer that you're serving. And so in this process, what have you been surprised or learned about your customer base as you sold to more people or talk to more customers that you didn't expect? Maybe either of you can jump in.
I can jump in. I think when I started, I was feeling my own pain as an African American woman who didn't see herself or had to go to a specific store, right? And so in the beginning, my focus was, okay, cultural representation of across different cultures. And when I was having different conversations, that's kind of where the messaging came in. And that's not even something I really thought about before. The first conversation was about sobriety cards and how someone didn't know what to say, but they wanted to say something and they ended up saying nothing because they didn't have any help. And so I think that's kind of where I started to open up my mind to, okay, well, what other moments can we help people kind of be a bridge between the communication, spark that connection. And so that was a learning for me that I wasn't expecting. And so we're at a point where there are times when we have cards that don't kind of connect with my specific identity, but I understand the underlying value is someone feels unseen, somebody wants to be able to share this message with someone in their life, and that's what we help with.
I didn't think about that. That's so true. It's wanting to say something but not knowing the words. That's pretty powerful. What about you, Rachel?
Yeah, so the whole premise of our product is it's compact, it's convenient, really great for travel is the most obvious use case. I think what surprised me, and we discovered this during the early customer discovery that we were doing, for people who were testing the products, they were initially like using it just for travel or maybe at their office, keeping it in their purse. But over time, they found themselves reaching out and using their stack every day and replacing their everyday routine. And so when I was focused in the beginning on the products that you will need in a pinch, that kind of transformed into, well, what does someone need to really get a full face of makeup, just to get them to that confidence level without overcomplicating the routine. So I would say that definitely changed for us. And then the other piece was during the pandemic, we had a large influx of a new customer persona, which is women who haven't worn makeup before. And, these are not teenagers. These are women in their late 30s and their 40s who are now, kind of confronted with this uncomfortable feeling. They're sitting on Zoom calls all day. They've never really felt like they needed makeup. And I think in that moment, for a lot of women, they just needed a little bit of confidence. And so we were getting a lot of customers who the idea of the stack, it seemed easy for them to use. And so in order to support them further, we really went all in on educational content and really trying to support them in every way that they needed so that they could really feel confident in using the product. So that was very surprising to myself and my team as well.
That's true. That's true. It's, I mean, even Zoom started to create these filters that, I can change my eyebrows to pink if I wanted to, but right. So you're like, yeah, I try that out sometimes. I forget to turn it off in certain meetings. but yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. I do see kind of the approach of as a way to increase your traction, you produce something else, whether in this case it was a guide how to help people use your product, or just kind of come through, whether it's not your product, it's just makeup in general. What do you do? Where do you start? And now people kind of have this other way to connect with you. And I wonder for the cards that you're creating, Asha, is there something similar or something you've considered? How do you separate yourself, other than obviously the purpose of what you've created? How do you get people to find you online?
Yes, we're still working on it. One of the things that had our biggest kind of lead generation is through word of mouth, which has been great because that kind of shows that when people are getting them, or find out about us, they want to tell someone else, even if they aren't a customer already. And then our actual cards are a marketing tool. So we have, like, on the back, we share our information, right? We have our website, we have a QR code to learn more about us on the back of the card. So anyone who receives one of our cards is now potentially in our ecosystem or can learn more. And so that has been one of the ways, like through the products, through our customers or people that have been supportive. And then the other way has been through trying to build community through social media. And so that's something that I'm continuing to hone in on and figure out how to best connect with maybe more educational content and more opportunities for people to understand how to kind of use our website. It's not a typical website. You can shop by community, you can shop by occasion. And so we're still working on getting it flow. Yeah.
And I'm sure everyone in this call is also kind of working on it as well. I'm curious, we talking about metrics, we're talking about traction, social media, what are the next plans? I'm always curious, what software or tool are entrepreneurs using to enable them to achieve all these things? Is it keeping it on the Excel, classic, timeless, or are there other platforms that you use to track everything, especially Rachel with your large amount of inventory? I bet you have something like that.
We have quite a large suite of software and tools that we leverage. I would say as a founder, and I'm trying to put this into the perspective of the early days, I did everything out of a Google Sheet. I make all of our plans in there. Everything's centered around how much money is it going to cost. So when I first started, I had a financial sheet that it was really just, okay, if I have this element of the product, how much is that going to cost? And it has kind of transformed into this quite archaic 300-line sheet that I just track everything that is meaningful. I have an accountant who does it in a more formal capacity. We do have all of these tools, but at the end of the day, I think that it's so important for a founder to just be in the weeds on the important things. And so having this spreadsheet really helps me stay on top of everything that we are doing, what we are spending, what we are bringing in using it in ways to make optimizations.
Okay, but hold on, I got a question. Whenever we ask our founders, at least our incubator founders, like, okay, if you could we always ask them both questions. If you could do one component of your company all day for every day, and you wouldn't get tired, what would it be? And they say their answer. And the one that they would say that they would they just can't do it. It's the financial Excel sheet. So were you always that founder who was like down for the Excel sheet, or no?
I feel like we could dive into the psychology behind why people avoid the financial sheet. I'll admit sometimes I avoid mine, but for me, and again, I was self-funding the launch. So my first kind of tool set that I was using was a sheet just to see how much I would need. So I am not a numbers person. I did terribly in math. And I'm also terrible at Excel. Like someone on my team, she's like a wizard, and I'm in there like manually entering information. But I think that what I like is just the knowledge. I like seeing everything. I like knowing exactly what's happening. And I think that once you find a format that works for you, run with it, because I've seen the sheet that my accountant puts together for our investors, and it is over my head. And I don't care to look at it. It's confusing to me, but I at least have a really good grasp on the numbers because I am tracking it the way that it makes sense to me,
So if you could summarize two key, whenever you look at your spreadsheet, what are two things you understand about your business every time you visit that spreadsheet?
Definitely marketing efficiency. I'm checking that every single day. And then I would say the next thing is average order value is really important. So I track average order value across all of our channels, our marketing channels.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Nice. Asia, what about you? What do you track, and where do you track it?
So I also use a bunch of spreadsheets, and I use Airtable. So I'm doing a few different things. I'm trying to track our inventory, right? And then what we're buying, I have to create SKUs and then put it on, and then also tracking our in-house production schedule. So I use Airtable for different things that are kind of more complex databases, and I need different views to slice and dice the information. And then when it comes to finances, I'm probably like bad for doing this, but for the first, I don't know, year or so, I was trying really hard to like create something that I've seen before, like some kind of financial model. And it didn't make sense for where I was at that stage. I was just throwing numbers out there. I had no information to go on. And so I just stopped doing it finally. And I tried to figure out what was important for me at that stage. And that was learning, were we even making sales? Were people even coming to the website? Did anybody respond to the kind of marketing tools we were doing, whether it was social or email? Just trying to learn from that. Now I'm at the next iteration where I kind of look at the business as a whole picture. So I'll look at my P&L, my profit and loss statement. I finally have a bookkeeper, in that like those numbers are clean now, and cleaner than when I was trying to do it myself. And so I'll look at that at the whole picture basis. We're not doing any like percentage of revenue to allocate to marketing or anything like that yet. So I can't learn anything about the effectiveness just through those numbers yet. At least I don't think so. Right now, I'm just trying to understand like the full picture of how we're doing. And I think I feel comfortable with that because I spent a lot of time figuring out our pricing. So I know, like if I have sales, I know like what I can do within what range, and we're still okay on our margin. We started doing wholesale. I know that our pricing is right so that we still have good margins on wholesale, even if we have to like pay a commission to Fair, which is a wholesale connector site for small businesses. And so I think because I have confidence in how I price things, I have confidence in this season of just like learning to see what happens.
So I want to take another kind of tangent and dive into something you talked about, and it's pricing. Pricing is so hard to figure out because you look at competitors, you're like, well, my costs are low, so I can charge very little, but that's not very sustainable as you grow as a business. So how did you figure out your pricing specifically?
Okay. So my first iteration was based on the fact that we were wholesaling. And we couldn't have great margins, and we were also testing out different pricing points. So at one point, buying a card from us was about $8, but we were doing sign and send at that time. So there was an extra service of us putting the custom message in, sending it to your recipient for you. And so now our average price is $5. And so I'm able to sustain that because even though wholesale is really expensive, it's like more expensive for us, it's a part of our mission. I won't stop doing that because we want to amplify these diverse designers. But our in-house brand, we can make at a lower cost point because we have control over the production, we have control over the design, and we're not trying to make a margin on ourselves, right? Like the people that we're wholesaling from. So I think my first iteration was trying to figure out at what point can I sell our product that is still going to give us decent margins, right? And then, and I had a threshold for that, what I wanted to make, and considered things for the future, like considering labor that we're not paying for yet, considering things that were like different packaging materials, right? And then I had the fortune of being able to participate in a program with Target. It was Target Accelerators has an incubator program that I participated in. And during that time, I worked with someone from their pricing team. And he kind of helped me get to the next level of figuring out how I wanted to look at it and think about it at scale. And so thinking about different products like types, like whether or not we had packs, does that make financial sense? So it was a lot of kind of testing different products, a very big like model sheet of understanding, if I change this number, what happens? And then as I have gotten into having the additional line of business with wholesale, I learned more about like, okay, well, sales reps, if we ever have them, they're going to want 25%. If we ever work with a big box store, they're going to want crazy discounts. So we have to make sure that we're not eating up our margins if we get to those places in the future. So planning for it now is how I kind of approached it.
Ben, how do we make that clip available on social media? Because that's so right. We forget, we just go, okay, whatever will make it as easy as possible for someone to buy my thing. And that's not long-term thinking. And then when those very things come up, you're screwed. Or you have these uncomfortable conversations where it's like, well, we used to charge this and now we have to charge you this amount. Which, that's sometimes part of the course, but that also, it's almost like speaking into existence. There'll be one day where Target is going to want a lot of my cards, and I'm going to be pricing and thinking about it now, thinking about feeding yourself, thinking about future employees, and knowing these margins of sales representatives as well is very, very smart. And to do that from the very beginning definitely will set you up for success. What about you, Rachel? How did you figure out your price?
Yeah, I could talk about this all day. But so in the beginning, it started with a spreadsheet, of course, and I essentially took our fill weight, so how much formula you get in a pack, in a pod, and I chose brands that were kind of in the same range in terms of quality of formula. Did a big spreadsheet, figured out, okay, inputted what everybody is charging, took the average, and was like, cool, that's what I'm going to charge. Launched it, wasn't selling anything, and so what I realized is that a lot of these companies are selling individual products, right? So the average cart size is probably maybe 3 products. So these higher price point items, as a customer, you don't really think about it. What I didn't take into consideration was that with the stack, I had assumed that people would stack an average of 3 products on their first purchase. And so I was pricing accordingly. However, people actually wanted to stack all 5 of the products that we offered, which made their cart significantly more expensive than what their experience would be with other brands. So with that in mind, and seeing that, okay, they would be stacking a minimum of 5 products on average, what does the price per pod need to be? So I brought it down. I was pricing the pods at $20 a pod, brought it down so that the average order value was, again, to the earlier point, it helps them get them over that hump. And then, and of course, in beauty, the margins are really, really great. So we had a lot of flexibility on that side. And then I learned to not be afraid of increasing prices. I remember our first year of business, we were running out of one of our products, and we were definitely going to sell out, and there was going to be a gap. So I increased the price to try and slow down the sales, and the sales did not slow down, and I didn't get any kind of pushback. So since then, I have increased the prices on a couple of different products. And again, sometimes it's just for small solutions, but it doesn't seem to deter customers. Now, post-COVID, supply, in terms of supply chain, all the costs are going up, raw materials are going up. So we will likely need to increase our prices in a more formal capacity. I do know that every new product we're launching, it is at a slightly higher price point. And retail, that was something that I didn't really consider or account for in the beginning. And they take a huge chunk, I think like 55%. So, one of the pieces of feedback we got was that we're pricing ourselves out of our actual packaging. So right now we're working on redesigning the packaging in a way that makes it feel more luxurious, so that we can sell at those higher price points and continue to see the success that we're seeing D2C in retail.
Wow, what a journey. but that's how it is, right? You realize something and you have to respond. And I would be interested in knowing, for those people who didn't think twice about the price increase, if they were returning customers, because once they got the product, it's like, what's that example when someone says, would you buy this mug for $10 versus they give you the mug and they're like, buy it for 20, and someone's more willing because they already kind of have it, they have a relationship with it. So I'm curious if that might be the case, but that's pretty cool. All right. But thinking about kind of changing dynamics and changing, either in your case, Rachel, it was to slow down purchases, but I want to actually ask about, how do you speed up purchases with some of kind of these online e-commerce tricks? So some people will say, like, hey, before you close the tab, a pop-up comes up, hey, sign up for a newsletter or sign up and you'll get 10% off. What are some kind of tips and tricks that you felt helped a little bit with turning people interested into actual paying customers?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things you can do, but I think the number one piece of advice that I give everybody is to survey your customers at every step of the journey that you can. A lot of people are willing to provide their feedback without having to incentivize that feedback. So there's a couple of places that we have a survey. We have one specifically for the website. It's on the thank you page, and it asks their carefully worded questions around the website experience. And so we have, over the past few years, heavily relied on that feedback to make improvements on the website. Whether it be people asking for different angles of photos, asking, what other ways we can help them make their concealer selection, all of these different things. And I read it every week and put, tickets in with our web developer to make those improvements. We also have a post purchase survey that goes out 30 days after you have received your product, that asks very specific details about the product itself, the product experience. We spent all last year making improvements on every single one of our products based on that feedback. So I think that, leveraging your customer feedback as much as you can is like the best thing you can do. And then make sure you're acting on it. All of your website experience, you measure that via your conversion rate. That could be an indicator of the web experience itself or the quality of traffic that you're getting. Then of course, average order value, does the product resonate? Like there are all these different data points that can directly point to your an area in your funnel. Just getting a good sense of what those metrics are and how they relate would be really great, a piece of advice that I would give. And then just make sure that you're focused on it every day. It's really easy to set it up and then forget it, but yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Yes, no, it does. And, for those, just I'll echo looking at your whole funnel. So, if you have an ad or something on Facebook, you can see the clicks that leads to your website. And then from your website, their activity, and where like Rachel said, where do you start to lose folks? And now you see, well, what's going on in that section? Are they confused? Where do they buy? Is it too expensive? Is it overwhelming? Is it too many options? And I've seen a lot of companies able to hone into that thing. And we had an incubator company who increased their user base by like 300% once they like saw that one spot where people were getting stuck. So definitely see that kind of user experience from start to end. And that can really improve. So shout out to you for also collecting feedback on that. Because also when you're working on a business, one, everyone has different experiences. You're not fully representative of your full customer base, and things change too as time goes on. Marketing has changed with Web3. That's going to change business too. So very, very, very true. Man, I was going to ask you a specific question related to that, but if you don't mind answering that question, but I had a specific question for you related to that. But yes.
I think so. I think we can do a better job. Actually, it's something that we were thinking about, or I was thinking about having a better survey, like an exit survey. So right now we kind of ask them in general about their experience, and people share free text. And I think that we can do a better job of understanding their shopping experience, since we have like 230 SKUs, right? That's a lot to take in, and we have different buyers, whether they're mission or they're just browsing. And so I think that that's something that we can do to improve how people are experiencing us. For one, one thing, I think the question also talks about something that you can do to like encourage that conversion. And one of the things that I do is how I position our free shipping. So it is a little bit higher than our average order value. So I'm trying to like get them towards the average order value, and then you have this free shipping. And so I think that was another way. It's usually about 5 cards. So if somebody had 4 in their cart, and you can see at the top, like, oh, you're only like $5 away from free shipping. Well, our shipping, we use like these rigid mailers and everything. And so they end up being shipped as a package. So it costs us, it's typically about $3.99 or so. And so it helps to get them to a higher order value, right? To be able to provide that free shipping and not take a huge hit on our end. So doing things like that, along with the like exit intent pop-up to remain engaged through newsletters and stuff like that. But I think when you help people get something that they feel like they're getting something like a deal, like a discount or anything, then that kind of helps drive them towards a sale.
Do you have different marketing assets based on different communities? So, let's say for us with doing co-working, there might be moms, there might be, do you have a folder where you direct specific type of marketing for who purchase your product?
No, not yet. It's a dream of mine. But it's not yet. Like right now, pretty much everybody is landing. We're not running any ads right now. So pretty much it's they're going to be landing on either something specific that they clicked on from like our Instagram links, for example. They might land on new cards, or they're going to land on the site. So I think that's a huge improvement for us to make, to help people on board and find things that immediately resonate and would be critical if we were running ads. Like, we want to make sure we're not just sending them to the home page.
Right, absolutely. We had an interesting question that we got, and I'll read it, straight. As an entrepreneur, I'm especially critical about my business progress. What tips do you have to help you step back from the details and the challenges to see the real accomplishments and wins? That's a good question.
I think this is something I struggle with too. I have this bad habit of really taking the losses very hard. And then anytime we have a win, treating it as an expectation and not as an accomplishment. But a couple years back, my husband had said to me, like, if you were going to feel the losses in the way that you are, you have to make a conscious effort to celebrate the wins. So I think that, it won't come naturally. I think it's something that you have to actively work on as a founder to really kind of take a step back and acknowledge the progress you've made. And that's hard. That's like part of the hard stuff they talk about founders. It's not just staying up late. It's like working on the mental stuff too.
I completely agree. And like Rachel, I'm still working on getting better at celebrating the wins and not just like go, go, go mode. But the mindset piece of it is so, so important. And sometimes it's something that is like you're making progress with your self-management. Like, I don't know how many times I tried to redo how I even guide my day to day. How do I prioritize things? How do I'm going from a situation where I was working in a big company. I had a specific domain that I was focusing on, and I knew how to direct my time in that sense. I'm like 5 departments, and everything's important and urgent. And so it's like, so that's been like one of the wins that I've been doing a better job of acknowledging. Like, I'm getting a lot better at prioritizing and my what I work on, and understanding why I prioritize that and being okay with it. And just also other things like doing a good job with sticking to my morning routine. And like I like to work out, I like to meditate, I like to like read my Bible. I do those things every morning, and it's kind of those things that kind of help enable you as a founder to be able to do all of the other things that make your business run. You're part of what needs to be worked on to make your business run.
Yep, you are part of what needs to be worked on too. That's so true. And to your point about the why, you're prioritizing something. And I hear more and more certain founders who will say, well, what are my metrics for the end of the year? And when I receive a to-do or a task or a thing, I think, does that directly tie into me reaching that goal in the end of the year? And if no, then I'll put that to the side for now. And if it's yes, then I'll make sure I make time for it in the next week or so. So absolutely. We have a great question in the chat here. Do you see your current marketing methods applicable in the long run, or will it change as your business grows? Which will tie into my last question today, which is, where do you see your business in 3 years and then in 10 years?
So current marketing methods, I think that we always are looking to expand, diversify, as they say, our marketing channels. I definitely think we will not necessarily switch, but just add to our current toolbox. Video is very hot right now across all social media platforms. Specifically, we're seeing like the TikTok style video performing very well across, Instagram and Facebook as well. So I think that we are sort of shifting to focusing more on video and trying to grow our presence on these other channels that we haven't been giving too much attention, up until this year. And then I would say, as far as where I see the company in 3 years, in retail, I would like to be omni-channel. Everything that we're working on right now is working toward that goal. In fact, I think everybody on the team has, in terms of one of their goals, is contributing to being in retail in their own sort of department and capacity. So yeah, that is a focus.
Can you explain what you mean a little bit about being in retail in your own department?
Yeah, so for example, we have been having conversations with a national retailer, and we did hear back from them in terms of the social media criteria that they like to see. So for the marketing team, they have a specific number of followers and engagement ratio that they now have in their goal list that they need to focus on. So, that's something that she can specifically focus on. How can I increase our followers on this specific platform and our engagement rate? But ultimately, that ties back into our ability to secure a retail partner. So that's kind of one example.
Okay, that's a good example. Thank you. What about you, Asha?
So for marketing, I think we are in a season of kind of revamping how we approach marketing. So video is very much a part of that, and also some more engagement. So I'm trying to do more behind the scenes, trying to come up with ideas for ways to be more helpful. So we sell cards that don't have messages inside. The bulk of them don't have messages inside. So helping people figure out what to write in these different cards is something that people often struggle with. So kind of being more of a, I could say a pen pal, but kind of being more of a support for them in their desire to reach out, right, and help them get from having the thought to actually giving the card, which is a big problem for a lot of people. And so that's one of the things. And then another thing that I've been thinking about has been more like direct talking. So if you've heard of the community app, it's something that I've been trying. So basically, the community app is a text-based app, and it allows you to have this phone number. People can text it, but it's different than just having marketing SMS text messages. You can actually respond to people as if it was a regular text message, or you can send them out a full blast. You can segment people, and I'm interested in understanding how can we use that to have a better feedback loop mechanism for new card designs, for example, or for ideas, or just having people feel like they're part of the design process. So exploring different ways to do that in a way that is native to how people live their life, which is texting all the time. I'm sorry. The second part of the question.
In 10 years, or Anya, are you kicking me out?
Would love to hear.
In 10 years, what does your business look like? What are you selling? Okay. How big is it?
We will be a distributor. We are working on that from day one. We have licensing and royalty model already. And so we want to be the broker for diverse and inclusive stationery and gifts to all of these brands that want to have more diversity on their shelves.
There you go.
Okay, we'll check. We'll do a calendar reminder in 10 years. Check back in. I know it's going to be that. I believe it. And Rachel, what about you? In 10 years?
10 years. That's a long time. So I raised venture capital. So I think the answer everyone wants to hear is we would have exited. We would have sold the business. We would have a large exit. No, I think that with Subtl, I really want to change the way that people are kind of approaching their makeup routines. I think that there's a much easier way to perform these kind of self-care rituals. And I think that one of the big missing pieces among a lot of things is the packaging. So I'm really hoping that we can reach as many people as possible to kind of simplify that routine for them. So that looks like I said, being omni-channel, being, selling into different countries, having a larger presence in those different countries, and hopefully having a large strategic partner helping us along the way.
Great.
Nice. I really appreciate that. Well, thank you. I know we're out of time. We're a little bit over. Thank you to the two of you. So many great, snippets of information. I really appreciate it. I hope everyone here learned something as well. So feel free to come back. I'll pass it over to Anya in case there are any announcements.
Yeah, no, just like, thank you so much again to Rachel and Asha for this, amazing talk. I told everybody at the beginning we were in for a treat, so we deliver for sure. Come back to this recording. I think there were many specific strategies and examples that people can take away and apply. So feel free to do that. Visit their websites, check them out, take the surveys. I think this is all, an effort to be collaborative, to help each other out, and just like share new things, share their websites, and just connect. So I'll see you everybody next time in our upcoming event. And again, thank you so much again, Asha and Rachel, for your time today. All right, have a good night.